So, we're definitely another part of, we're also in parallel to developing our project areas. We are developing that extremely high cost threshold that will help determine when and where we can implement those alternative technologies. That will also be something that we work with you all on, our communities and our stakeholders, to make sure that we're aligned with what that process should look like, that threshold should be, in order to make sure that everybody is treated as fairly as possible. We don't want there to be a division where in the Eastern Plains, because it's flat, they don't get the same kind of attention that the Western Slope does. So it's really, again, looking at strategic ways to make sure that this works for everyone involved. So more to come on that, but again, we'll be including everyone on that decision making over the next few months.
And, something I can kind of speak to a little bit, just to talk about where we might have some of those alternative technologies. CCOM is the division of Southeast Colorado Power Association, a rural electric cooperative. And looking at our territory, Southeast serves roughly 13,000 square miles of territory with 11,000 meters. So we're at 1.8 meters per mile of line, and only about a third of the residents. So we're really at about 0.6 of a meter per mile of line throughout our entire territory of servable residences. So, and another big concern I have on that is, because sometimes I make comments to people, they don't make enough grant money to serve everybody in our territory. Because truly, you can't get a business case out of a 25% match on that type of bill. And so another concern I have is also a lot of our territory is showing funded because of RDOF funding. That we really believe that they have no intention of actually following through on it. So it's just putting things out there and going to, unfortunately, I think disqualify a lot of people that later, who knows what other rounds of grants will be coming up afterwards. But it's kind of an unfortunate situation.
That's something, just before we move on, that's something that we're actually working on. With those state-funded grants coming under CBO, we're taking a hard look at some of these older opportunities that folks just have not delivered on. And we're getting very aggressive about terminating grants and making sure that that money is then, if it's unused, it goes to other resources that can help communities, that same community. We're also looking at making sure that those addresses, those locations are still available for BEAD. So our team is really getting involved with that, and you're going to see a big difference going forward with the monitoring and compliance portion of these projects. We've got a whole team that we've now brought on board who will be closely watching. And we're talking on-site visits unannounced to make sure that folks are delivering on what they
because we haven't even got those grant funds yet, and we're having that kind of problem. And so I'm curious if that's it.
This is a statewide issue that over the last few weeks I've started digging pretty deep on. Just talking to John about it before we get started. And this is statewide. These pole companies, they are price gouging and taking forever, and it's going to it's already having an impact on some of these CBF grants that may not, these projects may not happen because now the pole attachment fees are so astronomical that the grant no longer makes sense. It's just not cost effective.
Well, for us, it's not even the fees as much as just the time.
It's happening all in the state. I think we're probably going to have to get involved. The state is going to have to get involved and provide some sort of regulation to make sure that this is not another one of these hurdles that is going to delay or prevent projects from happening. But it's a real problem. And if you have that, it's
Well, then you want to talk about how we got the polls? I mean, we had to do a similar type of thing to advocate to get lights.
Yeah, we had a youth group and a resident team lunch, and we've had problems for years and years with the lighting out here, which is basically almost none. We had a student with themselves, intern, and they basically drove around Avondale and marked all the poles and counted and presented it to the county that this is the lights that work, this is where we don't have lights, this is what we need, and it took us a year and a half or so to get anything done, and it was a process of that.
But we really pushed the county, right? To the commissioners, to say we need to do this. And we did the work up front so that they had it available. So hey, this is what you need to do, so.
And it's tough on the utility side. I mean, as, the parent company, Southeast Colorado Power, we have a limited staff too. If we were to have someone come to us and want to know about what attach on 5,000 poles, I don't think staff are going to do that. I mean, to reach out and get engineers to come in and do that. So, I'm not just totally, blaming on the utility, but some of that stuff just takes time. But I just heard this morning, like, Avondale itself, we put in 5 different sections of town with this 5 different packages that there's all the poles. I heard that like all 5 of those got sent back.